Welcome to IMAX Case Analysis. This is Team 57 and let's begin. IMAX revenue mainly comes from three sources: 50% from theater systems, joint revenue services agreement, and films account for 29% of total revenues. And this is a pie chart of IMAX revenues by geography. Notice how more than 50% of revenues actually comes from international markets.
Now that Josh has given you an introduction, let's dive into the industry analysis. Ultimately, we decided that high buyer and supplier powers make this a fairly unattractive industry. First, for the threat of entry, while high capital expenditures, patents on technology, and prerequisite relationships with cinemas and studios should in theory make the threat of entry low, the threat of backward integration from either cinemas or studios to do what IMAX is currently doing makes it quite high. We also found that there was high buyer power due to the highly concentrated pool of buyers or cinemas and their large capital resources, allowing them to backward integrate, if they so choose, into the large format or equivalent space. Suppliers, or Hollywood production studios, look to IMAX for differentiation and value their technology. However, since the attractiveness of IMAX to cinemas depends entirely on Hollywood's approval for their co-production and conversion to films, as well as those films' success, we have concluded that supplier power is quite high. In terms of rivalry as a threat, IMAX is a gold standard in large format projection and filming technology, and by working alongside production studios, they are motivated to continually improve. There is a threat, however, that what we've called good enough substitutes will decrease overall consumer willingness to pay and therefore reduce incentive for JRSAs with cinemas. Finally, at-home viewing, a competition for consumers' leisure time, has led to decreased theater attendance and therefore an insurgence of substitutes, but also means that IMAX can further exploit its differentiation. We have overall classified this as high. Now let's look at internal fit. IMAX is a differentiated competitor. This means they increase consumer willingness to pay above that of regular movie tickets, cinema-created premium competitors such as AMC's ETX and Cineplex's Ultra AVX, as well as Real 3D, allowing cinemas to charge premium pricing for their movies. While the experience that IMAX provides is valuable and rare, it is imitable. Cinemas are already backward integrating into the large format space. Studios have the capital and distribution network to do the same, and patents that IMAX currently has are expiring anywhere from 2016 to 2038. Also, recent conversion of their enterprise resource planning software has left us with doubts as to whether they can adequately capture the value they create with their current competitive position, leaving them less organized. This means their competitive advantage is only temporary at present.
The landscape of media consumption is changing, and the threat of low-cost substitutes that allow consumers to stream at home is powerful. A continuous increase in broadband connections in the U.S. reflect the pervasiveness of high-speed internet connectivity, creating a conducive environment for online streaming products, such as Netflix, to grow and reach a captive audience. Drawing customers away from the theaters and decreasing their willingness to pay, ticket sales in the industry are on a decline. The fate of IMAX's future is facing a significant threat, not only from substitutes, but new products and technology that directly compete are making it easier for cinemas to backward integrate and create good enough large format alternatives. This option has the potential to draw cinemas away from their joint revenue sharing arrangements, which is a large portion of IMAX's revenue stream. Should cinemas reduce purchase of IMAX systems or replace those existing with their own format, the environment to screen IMAX films is minimized, and a key relationship with the Hollywood film industry will be jeopardized. With a smaller number of IMAX outlets, what incentive does Hollywood have to partner on DMR conversions or use IMAX cameras to create their stories? This is another significant of IMAX's revenue stream, which is in jeopardy. The overarching change in the way consumers are watching movies has led us to create a three-pronged strategy to solidify sustained competitive advantage and strongly position IMAX for future growth. To build on IMAX's existing focus on international expansion, we recommend strategic partnerships with established local media players in markets ripe for growth. We will examine what this might look like in India. Secondly, to decrease supplier power held by Hollywood film industry, we highlight strategies to maintain IMAX's reputation as the gold standard, as well as building relationships with other industries to screen untraditional types of content. Finally, to decrease buyer power and discourage backward integration, we recommend offering cinemas a more attractive piece of the pie and address the JRSA.
As a part of their international expansion, IMAX should partner with major overseas players to increase the international expansion. They're already partnering with PVR, a leading cinema chain in India, and the current industry in India is very attractive. It's one of the largest industries globally and heavily underscreened, growing middle class of 300 plus with a higher willingness to pay. The government is set to relax the regulations on number of shows and ticket pricing. The implications of this is that they will have increased offerings of Bollywood movies in IMAX, and IMAX should also build the existing relationship with PVR, as PVR has 454 screens and 102 properties in 43 cities in India. This graph shows the box office revenues in India from 2009 and 2018. So as you can see, there's a upward trend over the next few years, and IMAX can exploit this trend by having more IMAX showings in India. Maintaining the gold standard with Hollywood studios to discourage backward integration is also a very important strategy. And the Hollywood film industry must strongly differentiate itself in order to add value and maintain its competitive advantage. If it doesn't do that, IMAX could lose its competitive advantage in the near future. IMAX is currently an integral piece of the differentiation strategy for film studios, looking to offer an amplified in-theater experience that can't be recreated at home. And that's why we see that the Hollywood studios do rely on IMAX as much as IMAX relies on the Hollywood studios to differentiate themselves. IMAX should also secure relationships with key Hollywood film studios and directors such as Christopher Nolan. This will help IMAX ensure a sufficient supply of movies that are made with IMAX cameras and that are also coming out to the general public. IMAX should also provide an in-house consulting on a project-by-project basis, enabling IMAX to adapt to studio needs and helping studio create content that maximizes impact of technology.
Our next strategy is that IMAX needs to create new partnerships in order to reduce supply of power. These new partnerships will allow IMAX to reap the benefits of horizontal diversification without actually owning the content. The two main benefits of this strategy are that IMAX will achieve economies of scope by earning revenues from increased alternative content and achieve cross-selling benefits from increased usage of IMAX cameras in production and post-production services. This links back to the main purpose, which is to diversify offerings and reduce the power that Hollywood has over IMAX content. Here we have a graph that can further demonstrate why IMAX should move into alternative content. As we can see, the percentage of revenue derived from regular theater offerings has reduced drastically in the last few years, and the percentage of revenues from premium offerings has increased accordingly. An important factor for us to note is that overall revenues from theaters are increasing, so the share of revenue from premium offerings becomes more significant over time. A great example of alternative content for IMAX would be to venture into live sports broadcasting. This concept has been applied previously in various countries to great success. It has several benefits, which are that it increases attendance for shows during off-peak hours. The content can be tailored to cultural preferences because of the popularity of different sports in different regions. It is friendly content for all ages, and the immersive experience of watching the games in the cinema with many other people increases buyer willingness to pay because it is better than viewing it at home and cheaper than watching it live in a stadium. Our final strategy consists of slightly decreasing the percentage of box office revenues that IMAX currently takes from its joint revenue sharing agreements. We can discourage cinemas from backward integrating into their own large format equivalents, thereby decreasing overall consumer willingness to pay and locking in contracts with more cinemas. As you will see from the diagram, IMAX currently creates about 30% value for cinemas by allowing them to charge premium prices. However, since they take 20% of that, value created for cinemas is only approximately 20%. If the cinemas continue to compete in the large format space, they can increase their value captured both by higher ticket prices, albeit not as high as IMAX tickets, and avoiding having to pay out 20% of box office revenues. We believe that if they amended their JRSA structure to be a little more cinema friendly, cinemas would prioritize putting in IMAX cinemas over their own premium competitor. To conclude our presentation, let's recap over some of the main benefits of implementing our strategy to IMAX. It increases IMAX's international market share and brand equity through expansion. It increases the amount of alternative content and motivates studios to incorporate IMAX cameras into their production process, and it increases the overall value captured by cinemas. It also protects IMAX by reducing the threat of backward integration by studios and cinemas. Thank you.